Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we have ginormous news in the OCG. This is so exciting for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of rogue players and even some competitive players I'm sure will also be excited for this, just to get something new. Not right now, but it's OCG ban list time, and man, this ban list is absolutely huge. It is a gigantic ban list. It moves a ton of cards, impactful cards, and it is encouraging if you are getting a little stale on the Tearlament Tier 0 format and you want to see some nice changes. This is a doozy of a ban list. And to be fair, Konami normally does their biggest ban list of the year at the beginning of the year. So this is the OCGs, which means our next one to follow would probably come like late January, maybe early February, and that could be the ban list that kind of sets the tone for the next half a year, really. So let's get into it. We've got a little bit of other news outside of the ban list. We'll talk about that at the end because it's, not as big, but we'll throw it in there, sprinkle it in. But shout out to Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization. I do not do this enough, and that is my fault. They kill it with Yu-Gi-Oh! News, so please follow them regularly just so that they can bring you the news you want to love and see. So let's get into it. Starting off with the bans. Kit Kalos banned. Bear Statue of the Stormwinds banned. So huge. Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. I mean, if you were wanted to do the most damage to tier that you possibly could, and without even caring about potentially killing the deck outright, it's Kit Kalos, right? Like, we talk about this with, like, Salamangreats for so long. You were like, it's a weird deck. It's like, what do you hit without just killing the deck outright? You were like, you could ban Sunlight Wolf, but, like, the deck doesn't do anything without Sunlight Wolf. I don't know if I would say the deck does absolutely nothing without Kit Kalos, but it is severely hindered. Kit Kalos is the lifeline of the deck. It is the main card you go into early and often in your plays every single turn. It's crucial. So absolutely huge, just gone. Secondly, Bear Statue of the Stormwinds. We see this with Flunder. We had really hoped that this would get hit in the last ban list. I think Flunder just becomes so much more fair. This is like the only unfair things that I feel like Flunder does is this and the Harpy's Feather Duster? Storm Duster. Harpy's Storm Duster, I believe is the name of the card. The trap that says no monster effects for the entire turn for your opponent. Those are the really two, like, degenerate things the deck does that are just outright insane. And Stormwinds, I think going is probably just right. We saw it getting abused with the Samorglink 3. We're seeing getting used in Flunder. And honestly, if this card gets banned, maybe down the line the Samorglink 3 could come back off the list because they don't have anything super, super terrible that they're cheating out off of it. But we'll see. But yeah, I love these bans. Both are awesome. No complaints there. Moving on from there, we have the limited section here. Ancient Fairy Dragon from Forbidden to Limited. I know this looks kind of crazy, but this goes to our second piece of news for today. An errata for Ancient Fairy Dragon. Very, very cool. It pretty much... I don't even remember the exact text of the old Ancient Fairy Dragon, but both of its effects are hard once return. You can special summon a level 4 lower monster from your hand, but you cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this effect, so you just straight up cannot kill your opponent the turn you're using Ancient Fairy Dragon, which is fine. I don't know if that was part of its old text. And it can destroy as many field spells on the field as possible, and if you do gain 1,000 life points, then add a field spell from your deck to your hand with a different name than that of the destroyed cards. I like that it doesn't completely kill this card. It nerfs it a little bit. I believe it wasn't even a once per turn before. And so, making it hard once per turn definitely makes it a little more fair, but it still searches any field spell in the game. Requires you to already have access to a field spell or have a field spell on the field for this card to really do anything great for you. And then, keeps you from killing your opponent the turn you use it. So, I don't know, there's some nice little nerfs there, enough to make it still potentially playable in a good field spell deck. And I'm excited to see what people can come up with this card. Field spells are insane in Yu-Gi-Oh! We know that. So, yeah, I'm definitely curious there. So, moving on from there, we have Kashtira Fenrir and Kashtira Unicorn from Unlimited to Limited. Like, really going hard, even though you're already killing like the Tearlament version of the deck, which has been popping off completely in the OCG. That is huge. They went right at it. This is one thing that I don't expect the TCG to follow suit on, because a lot of times why these OCG ban lists are so interesting for the TCG is a lot of times we kind of follow, 3 months behind or one ban list behind as far as how we approach the game, which is, Tear's been around for a while. Tear's been a Tier 0 deck in the OCG for a minute. This is the list that finally brings them down to earth. I think we'll probably follow suit on that. But I think we would do that with Tear. I don't think the TCG will do that with Kashtira, because by the time we'll be getting our next ban list, the Kashtira support will have just came out. I don't expect us to go crazy on Fenrir or Unicorn, especially since in the TCG, we just don't see these cards played nearly as much in the OCG. These cards were played in like every deck regardless, as like a generic engine for them, whereas here we've seen much more use of the bestial cards overall. So I think we won't see these hits in the TCG on that list. Maybe the list after if they're still crazy and stuff, but I don't expect to see them out the gate. From there, we have Tearlament hits, two more, Sharon and Rhinoheart going from unlimited to limited. I don't even know if this is necessary. I mean, again, I wonder if Kit Kalos is banned, how, does the Tier engine need many hits? I mean, I guess so, just because they do still facilitate generic fusions, so I guess that's really what they're worried about. Not even just Kit Kalos, but, still something to keep in mind. So yeah, more consistency hits. They have like 3 or 4 of their names are just all at one. It's kind of crazy. Tellarknight, Ptolemaeus, they're actually a list behind on this one. We already got Ptolemaeus on the last ban list released, so cool. We'll see if anything comes of that. Bestial Magnamut going from unlimited to limited. This is not surprising at all. This is a hit I had talked about where I was like, Bestials down the line could definitely be a hit, especially because they're going to just see main deck or side deck play in like almost every deck, depending on the format, as long as there's a good dark deck in the format, pretty much. And Magnamut is by far the best one. I wouldn't be surprised if this one gets hits to 1. The other ones are just more fair. The fact that Magnamut just loads you with any other dragon into hand on end phase is insane. So, yeah, not surprised at that. Steam the Cloak, again, another card that's actually a list behind for them. We got this off last list, so cool. There could be some cool plays there. Card's pretty cool. Helps Blackwing's actually a nice card for them. Change of Heart. Yeah, this one they're behind as well. We've had Change of Heart for a while. Hasn't done anything. It's been in like some side decks here and there, but that's mostly it. Or Striker can main it, I guess. Then they get Prime Planet Parizos. I think Parizos is actually the Tellarknight field spell, right? Or not the Tellarknight. Kashtira, Jesus. So again, they just lost 6 copies of their main Kashtira engine. That is insane. That's so many cards. They're going to be so inconsistent now. I mean, you could still play 1 Fenrir or 1 Unicorn, and that could still be like decent to play generically. You also have Branded Fusion going from semi-limited to limited. That is tough. I mean, is Branded that good in the OCG? Because I thought it was like all Kashtira, all Tearlament, and like a little bit of some other rogue decks. Maybe Branded fit that mold of one of those other rogue decks, like not rogue decks, but just outside of like the top meta. I didn't think that'd be enough to get it from semi-limited to limited. I mean, in the TCG, Branded is a pretty respectable rogue deck, especially with the Bestial package, but man, that's pretty brutal, especially since we don't have Verte Anaconda to abuse this card or anything, and you just only get 1. That's pretty interesting, actually. I'm curious about that. Moving to the semi-limited section, Galatea going from limited to semi-limited. That's awesome for them because they actually do have 1 Harp Horror, so that's very interesting. Swap Frog, they go from limited to semi-limited. I think this is good for them. Do they have Toad banned? I think they just got Toad completely banned, actually. So this doesn't matter. Never mind. This doesn't matter. I think they banned Toad on the last list, if I'm not mistaken. But don't quote me on that. I don't follow the OCG ban list as tightly as far as what is currently going on. I'm more so just looking for what could happen here. Kagari. They've had Kagari limited for a while, finally going to semi-limited. I think they can get 3 Kagari. I think they'd still be just okay. Yatagrasu can come off the list. This is another interesting one as well. Rite of Aramesir coming off the list. They had limited this, and I believe semi-limited Water Enchantress. So, yeah, like this is interesting. As they nerf tier, we could see ourselves walking back into a heavier adventure format, which is interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Infernity Launcher also goes from limited to semi-limited for them. That's interesting. Infernity's actually low-key scary. I mean, I know we have Bistils and stuff, and they kind of get decimated by hand traps, but there could be formats where somebody could sneak in as a rogue player on this deck in the right kind of format, right kind of event, and the deck is explosive enough, or it could do some crazy stuff. Foolish Burial Goods, they've had unlimited, goes to semi-limited. That's odd. I don't know exactly the reason for that. But I guess in general, as Yu-Gi-Oh! Progresses, you know, we saw Foolish Burial end up going to 1. This could just kind of be the same thing. As Yu-Gi-Oh! Progresses, we just get more and more good spells and traps that want to be sent to grave. So maybe this card just becomes a little bit too good at accessing any of those. Raigeki, unlimited to semi-limited. Okay. Maybe it was just so heavily side-decked that they wanted to semi-limit it. That's a weird one. And then Light Stage. Light Stage can come off the list completely. This is the first step, limited to semi. Cool. And then the unlimited section, ABC Dragon Buster. Cool, unlimited for them. That is a nice step. Double Iris Tradition. Cool. They're behind on both of those. Water Enchantress of the Temple. So we talked about Rite of Aramesir. So they get 2 more copies. I think they're only 1 copy shy on Rite. So they'll have 2 Rite, 3 Water Enchantress, and Foolish Burial. So, yeah, that's pretty sweet, actually, if you are a fan of adventure stuff. That and especially with the decimation of tier, very interesting. Phantom Knights of Torn Scales as well goes from semi-limited to unlimited. Doesn't matter, cool. So that should have been off the list. And then Scarlet Sanguine, they had actually done Eldritch hits. We don't even need to hit Eldritch. They're just not playable right now. So they go to unlimited there. Very huge list here. Decimates tier completely. Actually hits Kashtira really hard as well. I love it. You know, you have something that's just absolutely owning the format. Put something on them. Put them down. And, you know, I think they had a good format and a half of tier running rampant. So being able to come at them here, I think feels good timing-wise. And hopefully the TCG follows suit on our next ban list. Like I said, we tend to do our biggest ban list of the year in the TCG in like the very early months of the year, whatever ban list comes around that time. So we'll be looking to that. It's kind of like Konami wants to set the tone to begin the year. Like, okay, let's start fresh. Let's hit the best decks pretty hard. Let's open it back up for all these other decks to be able to play and go from there. Very, very cool. So many hits here. Please let me know your thoughts down below on all these hits. There's a ton of stuff going on here. And one other thing I want to note here, there is no hits to Sprite. I know Sprite has not really been doing a ton in the OCG. I know they have some hits. I don't even remember what exactly their hits are, but I don't think they banned anything. I think they might have put something, like maybe they put Jet to 1. I honestly can't remember, but I don't think they banned anything for Sprite aside from hitting like totally awesome. So this could be the kind of list where like Sprite comes back out as like the best deck in the game because they're only minimally hit, not touched at all here, and then, you know, goes kind of crazy in the next format because, you know, the super high ceiling resilient deck in tier has finally been hit because it's just been outclassing them completely. But I'll be very curious to see what comes out of this format. I will definitely keep a sharp eye on when we get the next Road to the King update to see what the format looks like in a couple weeks and what people are playing, what people are having success with, because that could be a huge dictator on where we end up in the TCG early 2023 as well. So very, very cool. I'll get out of here. Sorry if I've taken this video so long, but this ban list is so huge. Oh, also there was other news. There's like 2 other cards that got like revealed for the Jump Festa 2023. That's like very small pictures. You can't even read what's in the text, but it's like a continuous trap, and it's either, I think that's a quick play spell. I can't even tell. Is that a quick play spell? It looks like a quick play spell, might be a field spell. I can't really tell. It doesn't look like art of a field spell, but we'll see. It's you know, it's cool. We'll see if they end up being anything interesting. I'll obviously show you those when they get released if they're worth it. But yeah, very cool. I'm out of here for today. Ancient Fairy Dragon errata, very cool. I love you guys. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section there, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.